Auguro a tutti voi amici piloti italiani della Audi 90 GTO IMSA in bocca al lupo per il campionato Kamel GT. Fatevi onore, date gas e tenete alto l'onore della mia Audi Racing preferita di sempre, l'Audi 90 IMSA GTO. Ciao e in bocca al lupo, tenete giù.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
The raw numbers might make it appear as though both championships are one-sided, but approaching the final quarter of the season, drop weeks will soon start to be counted. That is going to drastically change the shape of the picture. Who is going to be left feeling more and more nervous after today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 8 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Nürburgring's Grand Prix course only takes up a small chunk, both in terms of history and footprint compared to the rest of the circuit. Yet this place seems to always challenge drivers. Let's head down to our track eye to learn a little bit more about it. Welcome to the Nürburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop. And while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off for those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing. Really is a very modern facility that they have here at the Nürburgring, Adam, as it has to, well, once again, hold modern F1 here. But why don't you talk about today with retro vehicles out here?
Yeah, definitely, Joe. This GT racing mainstay has had new life in racing since its renovation in 2002. Its 3.2 miles or 4.15 kilometers and 16 turns feel tackleable regardless of the vehicle driven, but it still has its danger zones. The first 5 turns is a dangerous set of low-speed, low-banked turns with significant elevation change, making the Nissan struggle under power and the Audis struggle to reach the apexes. The deceptively long turn 7 and the high curves of the Schumacher S will be a fair challenge for both classes, as the curves will threaten to throw the cars off the apex and, if you're not careful, spin them around. Multi-class around here is not too challenging, so long as both classes are keeping track of their relative. With 2.5 lanes of space at its narrowest spots, it will be about choreographing when the pass has happened to maximize corner entry and exit speeds for both cars. As far as passing goes in these particular cars, There are plenty of long straights out of the complex sections, followed by hard braking zones to capitalize on the mistakes of your competitors, but look for the technically skilled drivers to still run away from the field regardless. But I'm very curious to see what kind of race we get today, Joe.
Absolutely, because as we mentioned, this could have a big effect on the championship now that we're kind of winding down here. And in fact, let's take a look at the prototype championship first here. And up at the top, as I mentioned, this is going to look a little lopsided, but they have not counted the drop weeks. For those not familiar, the worst results, the 3 worst results, are not counted in your points in this series, just to help out in case people can't attend every single week. That will probably bump up Cy Andra. So even though he's 54 points behind Fabian Gerber right now for missing those first 2 rounds, oh boy, when things will get leveled out here, it's going to be pretty exciting down at the end. Pete Stomukanos and Tobias Gerber are among the others in the top 5 in our GTP standings. Now, GTOs, from what I understand, going to be kind of similar once those drop weeks come in.
Yeah, it's going to be very similar. Rob Olenek has not been scoring as high as Jamie Hall or Phil Lake, more like top 5. So expect him, once the drop weeks come into play, to be 15 to 20 points out of the lead. But expect Phil Lake to catch up, if not pass, Jamie Hall once we get the drop weeks starting to come into play here. Because Phil had one bad race that set him back of Jamie. Well, actually, he's had a couple of bad races, so he might even leap Jamie by a decent amount of points, maybe even more than 10 once the drop weeks come into play. Look for Juka Lascala to jump Ryan Lang and maybe even Rob Olenek, because of his lack of attendance in the early races might get erased here. So it'll be a very different points factor once we get to round 9.
Absolutely, and he's here today again. But speaking of today, let's go through the race details for today's event. It is their sprint format for round 8, 40 minutes long, and it is open setup in this series, which means the drivers can do anything to the cars that they could in the real world to try and get them set up and quicker out on track. However, they have no fast repairs, so if they damage the car, they've got to come in and get it repaired if they find it's too slow. And speaking of slow or quick, well, if you go too quick and you go over the boundaries, you can see those incident points can rack up and cost you potentially either a penalty or a complete disqualification if you get up to 25 around here in the 40 minutes. Hopefully you won't get that many in that short of a race. Now, are you looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions? From official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. Right now, we've got qualifying underway. We've just got a couple of our GTPs putting times in. Nick Schneider right now up at the top of the board there. And just a few more trickling in. We're waiting for our GTOs to get their first times. In fact, Sadro and Decker seem to have come across. Olenek and Phil Lake, as we've come to expect, up to the pole.
Yeah, Phil up to the pole, and Jamie Smith down there in the 3rd position. A little bit of a name change for him over the course of this season. So Jamie Himmel-Smith will be recognizable to most drivers. Rob Olenek up there in the 2nd position in the GTOs, as well as Michael Houghton. Fascinating to see Riley Thompson, an old GTO driver, up there in the 4th position in the GTPs right now. So he's taking a swing at the faster vehicle in this current session.
Lot out there is yet to set his first time. The lap counter line comes up quick, and it's a 2:05.1. So and I've not seen him move up, so that's interesting. It looks like the lap counted, but it's not registering on our timing and scoring. I've never seen something like this before. In the meantime, Fabian Gerber holds the provisional pole up in the GTPs, and Cy Andra is about a 10th back.
And I'm also keeping my eyes on Jamie Hall in the GTOs, who has yet to set a time. He's coming around the final corner now and is going to be trying to get that time in. Remember, he's been challenging Phil Lake for poles, and if Jamie keeps getting poles, Phil's going to have a real hard time trying to take those positions away. So as Jamie crosses the line here, he is going to go fastest, but remember, Phil Lake and Jamie Hall still have their 2nd laps to complete, and it's going to be tight, though.
Matthias Hovdahl, one of our race winners so far this season. He sits in 5th position. He goes about 0.2 quicker. That's going to be good enough to bump him up to 4th, but still a lot of cars to come across for either their 1st or 2nd lap. As we watch Phil Lake now try to respond to his teammate. He's been bumped down to 2nd. He's got to make up half a second here. That's quite a bit. It's a 53.4, and that'll do it. He is up by 2.5 tenths.
Phil up to the provisional pole. Fabian Gerber crossing the line, only good enough for second because Timu Toika has taken the provisional pole position in the GTP. Sai Andra, the last car that really will be able to challenge him, I believe.
And it is only 13 thousandths between first and second. And make that second and third now, because Sai Andra goes to the pole. Oof, he is once again throwing down the gauntlet for all of our front runners in this series.
Here comes Yuko around for what should be his second time lap, but looks like it'll be his first time lap. He's going to come around and go up to third fastest beneath Phil Lake and Jamie Hall. But remember, Jamie Hall still has yet to finish his second lap. Chris Howard here has yet to set a time. Chris is going to cross the line for his first lap of 147.45. That's going to be good enough for 14th, but we're going to jump on board with Jamie Hall to see him finish off this lap.
Up to the chicane. This is a tricky one. We saw it earlier this week. Drivers having a lot of trouble trying to make that corner in the PRL GT4 Club Sports Series. So as Hall exits the Coca-Cola hairpin, he's got 2.5 tenths to try and take the pole right back. Can he do it? It's a 52.9, and that'll do it. He's up to the top spot, and Phil Lake cannot respond since he is done with his qualifying. Leskala as well has already completed his. I think that's it for anybody who could challenge him.
I think so. Jamie Hall taking that pole away. Mike Reuter coming around to try and complete his first timed lap. A 147.3 is going to be good enough for 15th for him. But what a good qualifying for Jamie Hall and Phil Lake, trading those pole times throughout the session.
That is everybody who can qualify from here on out. So as those last seconds tick down, our grid is already set. So let's go through that starting order here today. Sai Andra on the pole. Timu Toika comes back looking for another victory. He'll start in second place with Fabian Gerber, our championship leader. Probably wants to keep extending that points lead with multiple wins under his belt. He's starting third today. Matthias Havdahl will be P4 at the drop of the green with Niklas Schneider in fifth, and Laust Olsen, another great qualifying from him, in sixth place. Riley Thompson hopping over from those GTOs traditionally to try the GTPs in seventh. Nick Mukanos all the way down in eighth, unusually for him. Roman Pavlowski starts P9, and then you got Stephen Warkup with a pretty good qualifying in the top 10 here. Eitor Sintez Guindo starts 11th on the inside of the next row. Pablo Suarez to his outside in 12th will be followed by Martin Krejcik in 13th and Hideki Koivisto in 14th position. Mike Reuter with his one qualifying lap was good enough for 15th. Chris Howard in 16th and Cam Porter 17th. We did not get laps from Wayne Marshall and Guillermo Kramer, who will start at the back of their pack.
Jamie Hall takes pole away from Phil Lake on his final lap in the closing minute of the qualifying session. Phil Lake's going to start off second with Yuko Lascala starting off in third position. Michael Houghton is going to have a hard battle with Yuko to try and get past him in fourth position, with Rob Olnick lining up in fifth. Yuri Jessen going to line up in the sixth position with Pablo Regal in seventh. Daniel Sadro eighth. Jamie Hamill-Smith is going to line up in the ninth position with Chris Decker in the 10th spot. Craig Schultz, good enough for 11th today in qualifying over Ryan Lang, who had a not so great qualifying for him in 12th spot. Robert Plumley going to start off in 13th with Simo Raba 14th. Lucas Fort in 15th position for the GTOs, with Bradley Niroikis starting off in the 16th spot and Michael Haynes in 17th. We have two drivers who did not set qualifying times, Carlos Fonseca and Nick Schmeg, both of them running out the 19-car GTO field, the 38-car field for the race, evenly split between the two classes to a car.
So let's take a look at what the weather's like here this morning that we are racing. 18 degrees centigrade. That is going to be 65 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. So pretty cool. That's what's to be expected, especially in the mountains here up in Germany. It's only 8:30 a.m. virtual standard time. A little bit of wind as well, but not too drastic at 13 to 14 kilometers per hour. They already take off. You can see we're getting a little bit of cloud cover here and there, so I'm not expecting it to heat up too drastically way up here at high elevation.
Yeah, that 8 mile an hour wind actually might play a factor in some of these GTPs run. There's a decent amount of sort of canyon aspect to this course that will make things very interesting for them for sure. And also one of the things I'm keeping track of is just to see whether or not the track heats up like you said, but pace car already pulling off. These GTPs are going to get released very soon.
Schumacher has control of the field. He'll lead them around the Coca-Cola hairpin. Let's see how quickly he decides to go, and they come very close to touching each other, himself and the Finn Toika. And he's off like a shot. It's a great start for Sai-Andra. Green flag is out here for round 8 in the Kamel GT series. A great run up the inside by Fabian Gerber as well, looking to take second away from Toika. They all break down into the hairpin, which tends to be a little bit messy sometimes, but for the GTPs, it looks good. Let's go to the GTOs.
Good jump from Phil Lake, but he couldn't quite get the crossover done on Jamie Hall. Jamie Hall actually covering him off as they go into the hairpin. The GTOs slicing through the hairpin pretty conservatively for most of these drivers here as they continue to go through turns 2 and 3. Let's head back to the GTP battle.
Wayne Marshall, you saw, stopped in his Nissan to the outside of the hairpin. So, oh, and we've got another one. Cam Porter looks like he's off track in the Mercedes arena. Not sure what happened to either of those drivers, but it doesn't look like it's too dramatic that they can't get going once again. Up at the front, that is Sai-Andra pulling a little bit of a gap over Toika. And then they've got Fabian Gerber and Matthias Hovdahl chasing hard from the top 4 before you get a big split back to 5th, which is Laust Olsen in the yellow and blue machine.
Yeah, the more that I look at some of these drivers, the more I realize that some of these have more comfortable setups for themselves than other drivers for sure. As we look at the GTP battle going on, I can also see it down in the GTOs as Phil Lake is getting passed by Yuko Scala right now for the second position. They're going to go side by side through the Schumacher S.
It's going to lose them a lot of time. Leskola makes it work. Lake now has to play defense from Houghton as well as Olenek, but neither of them able to get a good enough run coming up to the next left-hander. This is certainly helping Jamie Hall, who has a gap of about 0.8 of a second, accelerating now towards the infamous Vidal chicane at the end of the lap.
Yeah, Sai-Andra is feeling the pressure for sure from Teemu Toika as Teemu actually getting past there. So very, very close racing between those two drivers for sure. Sai-Andra and Teemu Toika were a little bit side by side going into the last corner of the lap, but Sai-Andra able to get the speed down. But they're really struggling to get the power down out of some of these sharper chicanes.
There's a big fight between Olsen and Thompson. Thompson's going to take 5th place away. We're wondering how he would fare in different machinery, and the answer seems to be pretty well at this point, up to a top 5 in a very stacked field.
Yeah, Thompson's one of those drivers who likes to practice a decent amount before he jumps into races with different cars, and as we jump on board with Riley at this point, we're going to see how he tackles these corners. He's going to have a pretty decent setup. They've probably taken off of the forums or grabbed from one of his friends who races the series still, so it's great to see him back in these cars and racing the GTP this time for a little bit more extra experience in these prototype machinery.
This is all happening before we've reached the traffic. So when these cars start to come across the back of the GTO field, that'll change everything in the complexion of this race. You can see the gap forming between Thompson and Hovdahl. Looking back at those GTOs, Jamie Hall still ahead of Leskola, who's keeping hold to the back of him. It's getting to be a bit of a 5-car breakaway, it seems, in this field. Oh, we got a car off in the background. That was Giesen.
Yeah, Giesen straight off. I'm going to take a look. It looks like it's just he braked himself heading into the corner. So this is just one of those moments. We're going to take a look at this now. This is one of the struggles with the Audis. It does not want to get to the center of the corner very well. He just brakes a little bit late, and with that sloping into the banking, he just slides straight off the course into the gravel trap and hits the wall.
Very light cut, so he's able to get it going. But he lost a lot of places, and he's well down the order in 14th at this point. I was just about to say that we had a 5-car breakaway between Olenek and Rangel, who's running in 6th, but we jump back once again to our prototypes. Fabian Gerber under threat from Matthias Hovdahl. Hovdahl stole that win in the first round away at Monza. I wonder if he can do another one. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen Hovdahl be this strong, but Hovdahl looking like he's very strong on Fabian Gerber, who seems to be struggling through the medium speed corners. He's got the low speed ones and the high speed ones down, but these medium speed corners seem to be a little bit of a struggle for him. Same as Sai-Andra in the lead. Teemu Toika seems to be a little bit better set up for those medium speed corners, and that might be the difference today, especially when they hit traffic.
Out of the Dunlop hairpin one more time. Love watching these cars swing it through the Schumacher S. A lot of downforce when they are at speed, and look at how much they can carry through there. Sometimes offering passing opportunities down to the next left-hander. Bill Steen looks like not going to be this time. So onto the back stretch once more. And looks like we got a little bit of a battle starting to form in the GTO lead, just what we're seeing here in the prototype. So let's jump back here, take a look at Jamie Hall, looking for yet another victory this season.
Yeah, Leslow's putting some decent pressure here on Jamie Hall. They've been a lot tighter than I think Jamie would like to deal with here. Yuko just seems to have an understanding of this course. It's a little bit more internalized than Jamie. You can see it right there through the Schumacher S's. Yuko was really able to gain some time. He's able to take a lot more curb and make his lines a lot cleaner than Jamie Hall, who's really just trying to ring this Audi around the course. You can see it there. Jamie going off track just a little bit with that left rear tire. So Yuko Lascala looking very, very under control right now.
He's got to be hungry for a victory at this point. He is winless so far this season, with most of it being spread between Hall and Lake, and a single one going to Olenek so far. Yuko certainly seems to have the speed today. He closes in with every inch of track as they come onto the front stretch. How powerful is the draft today down this long run to the hairpin? Is this going to be enough to give him a shot?
You're going to have even speed with the driver ahead of you coming off of the turn ahead in order to really gain that much position coming into these sections, because Yuko's not really able to gain that much heading in. Jamie Hall doing exactly what he needs to hold off Yuko, but you can tell that's only a matter of time. Yuko's just waiting for the moment to pounce. And here, he looks to the inside, trying to get Jamie off kilter. Gets a little bit of an overlap, but he'll switch over here. Jamie might get the advantage, but the over-under is an open possibility for Yuko.
Heading down to Valvoline, Yuko's going to take a little bit of a peek, but then come back to the racing line, just trying to get into the head of Jamie Hall. You might have saw glances when we weren't on board here of Cam Porter. He is the prototype that's trying to come through. And again, this is not lapping traffic. This is him just trying to get back to overall position. So they're not getting blue flags for him right now. He's dutifully staying very patient.
Yeah, he's staying very patient, just trying to sort his way through the field. Being in that lap GTP feels like he's just getting trapped by everything, because there's absolutely nowhere you can go. So he's just got to time it right and make sure that he doesn't upset himself or the other cars. But our leaders are starting to hit a little bit of that GTO traffic, and this might start to shape the race in a different way.
Hey, you could see one of them ducking way wide. That was Bradley Nuroka, who just wanted to make sure he didn't interrupt this fight for the win. Andra was caught slightly by Timu Toika before they caught that traffic. Now he's starting to stretch away once more. It's about a second difference between himself and the Finn.
Yeah, and the traffic is really going to be the defining factor for these drivers. We know how good Andra is at navigating traffic. Timu Toika as well. These are two series legends, to be honest. These guys have been here for a very long time, and it's going to be awesome to watch their racecraft today, because they are known for cutting through traffic very quickly. But tucked in behind them, Matthias Hopdahl really starting to give Fabian Gerber some trouble. He's tucked right underneath that rear wing.
That's probably not what Fabian wanted. I'm sure he's very aware of those drop weeks being an issue in the near future. Right now he sits in third behind Sai, who is leading this race. So it's going to be a big points loss between them. We've also got a nice little three-way battle behind them. Laus Olsen being chased by Mukanos and Workup. Workup and Mukanos have been fighting for quite a bit in this race, but now they're starting to catch up to Laus. The Scandinavian driver, who's been having mixed results this season, is holding well, at least right now. Look at them close up under braking into this slow final chicane. If they get a good launch off the final hairpin, and Mukanos is looking well set up to do so, he could have a chance into the first corner.
Mukanos is definitely running a tick lower on the rear wing than Laus Olsen. He's got a lot better straight line speed. You're going to see it right here as he's going to definitely go for this move. He's got the move. He's got the inside covered off. Here he goes down to the inside. But this hairpin's so hard to tackle no matter what car you're driving.
Didn't defend, and doesn't seem really interested in going for the over-under. He might be thinking long-term, just trying to get to the end of this race and get himself some good results. So that bumps up Mukanos up to 6, but they've lost touch with Riley Thompson, who's essentially a no-man ahead of them.
Yuko Lascala really starting to put some heavy pressure here on Jamie Hall. Phil Lake now back up into the picture. These two have been battling a little bit side by side. That's introduced Phil Lake back into this fight. It's now a three-way fight for the lead. Yuko's going to have to get this job done quickly if he doesn't want Phil to catch right back up from back of him. So Yuko is really under some heavy pressure to get this job done. Jamie's going to try and cover him off to the inside.
I'm sorry, we had a big wreck involving front runners in the GTPs. Hovdal is off, and Fabian Gerber is missing his nose. They have come across, I think it was Simo Raba.
Oh, this is not a good incident.
Oh, I can't blame Raba too much other than the initial mistake that he made. He's going to go wide, and then he spins with his wheels half in the dirt. Yeah, you can see how hard Fabian hit him, and Hovdal, of course, caught the rebound as well. Wow.
This is heartbreaking for what used to be the battle for third and fourth. So Fabian Gerber and Matthias Hovdal with major damage that's not going to be repairable. Also, Lost Olsen is off track right now, going through the chicane right before the end of the course. So I'm not sure what happened to him, but he's having his own issues off of that P6 battle.
Checking. Looks like he self-spun, so we don't need a replay on that one. But he just lost it under braking. It was a bit close as everybody had to kind of squeeze by him, but thankfully there was no major incident there. Gerber had to come into the pits, unfortunately, and get repairs. So this changes things in the prototypes because now Thompson is up to...
Nick Mucanos is getting a little bit too hot on the throttle around the corner, and he spins it off into the runoff. He's going to recover, but that's him from 4th all the way down to 11th position.
Oh, Stephen Warkup has had the lion's share of luck today. That initial wreck between Gerber and Raba and whatnot had promoted him up. Now he's promoted once again by a self-spin, and he is in 4th. That's after starting in 10th. If another incident happens, Warkup could be looking at a potential podium today.
And the GTO lead, while this has all been happening, has been nearly side by side as they went down the front straight. Yuko Lascala is going to try and send it up the inside here on Jamie Hall. Just can't quite outbreak him. Jamie locking up those inside right tires as he goes through the hairpin. It's all cracking off here as we are in the 28th minute of this race, already 12 minutes down.
Yeah, there is still a lot to go. Whoa, a dive to the inside, and the door gets slammed on Lascala. So 2 tries, and neither one produces the lead for him. Jamie Hall is going to have to play hard defense. I'm surprised that Phil Lake isn't closer after all of that, though.
Yeah, Phil Lake having his own fair share of issues. He's still trying to catch up to the back of these guys. They're definitely faster than he is at this point in the race. And whether he's saving tires or just not happy with the setup, something is not going right for Phil today.
Yeah, with a fair bit of side-by-side action there, you would think that he would have been able to get right up to their rear bumper. They come out of the hairpin one more time, and they're going to be caught soon enough, maybe about another lap or 2 before Andra, Toika, Thompson start to run them down. And in the past, that has separated the GTO leaders if they get interrupted. We'll see if it does so today through the left-hander, and now back on the right-hander, plunging downhill. Onto the last portion of the course, Jamie Hall finally starting to pull a little bit of a buffer off of Lascala. Oh, Thompson had a problem. Thompson's lost 3rd place, and there you go. Stephen Warkup, as I predicted, up onto the podium.
Unbelievable. Stephen Warkup, this is exactly what I was talking about in the pre-race. Capitalizing off of the mistakes of your competitors is exactly how you can gain positions here at the Nürburgring GTP course.
Self-spin once again. Thompson just goosing it too hard out of the Mercedes arena. That falls down to 5th for him. Nick Schneider as well.
Take a look at this P6 battle in the GTPs. This is between Heitor Sintes Guindo, Angelica Pawlowski, and Pablo Suarez. And these 3 are just nose to tail right now. So we lost one P6 battle, and now we've got another one starting to crack off here.
Yeah, and more cars behind them as well. Pablo Suarez in there, and then Laust Olsen and Nick Mucanos, who both had their issues, remember, separately, find each other once again. So their battle continues, but farther down the field. Roman braking hard down into the last chicane. Isn't close enough to try and attack Sintes Guindo for that P6. Let's see what he can do on the front stretch.
Yeah, and I remember being in a type of battle like Laust Olsen and Nick Mucanos are. They're around each other pretty much every race. That was the battle I had with Hideki Koivisto when I was running the GTU Amateur Championship. And wow, Nick Mucanos actually going to the inside of Laust Olsen now as they go through the hairpin.
doesn't quite work out. Wow, Olsen defending around the outside, gets the traction and holds on to P9 for now. Behind them, that white machine is Martin Krejcik, who continues to hound them. He could take both spots in one if they get too distracted. They are losing touch with the trio in front of them, Suarez, Pawlowski, and Sintez Gaindo.
Yeah, when you're Nick Buchanos and Lars Olsen, the more you race this guy that you seem to be on pace with, the more you learn the ins and outs of their driving style, the things that frustrate you about the driver and how to compensate. And these two guys have been racing around each other pretty much all season. So it's awesome to see them still do that. It's funny how they end up right next to each other. A little bit of a late braking there from Nick Buchanos, but it's amazing how they end up right next to each other, even when they both make mistakes throughout the race too.
Seen much elsewhere right now. Battles have broken up for the lead in both classes. This is one of our best fights here on screen. Looks like, I thought you'd mentioned earlier that Buchanos had less wing in, but he's very strong on the brakes in places.
Yeah, when you do have less wing, you need to be a lot sharper on the brakes, and then you try and carry a little bit less speed from the center of the corner, because these GTPs tend to, when they put more wing in, they tend to be a lot stronger through the low speed and medium speed corners. But as Nick Buchanos, he's able to pull a little bit more through the high speed sectors, and that's exactly what Lars Olsen is afraid of right now. Nick Buchanos looking very strong. You can see Lars Olsen pulls as they go through the exit of that turn, but you'll see Nick Buchanos pull on the straight.
Close in. He's getting bigger and not quite close enough. So once again, traffic ahead of them coming thick and fast now. Could definitely affect things. Now, as we continue to watch this, if you want to keep an eye on other cars, check out GSRC.tv, where we've got live timing and scoring so that you can keep track of your favorite driver. During all of this, as Buchanos takes a little bit of a look, can't deal with it quite yet. He's been given an opportunity. Speaking of which, same thing's happening with our leaders right now. Andra being held up by multiple GTO cars, and Toyka has closed it down to 3/10.
Worst place to catch a GTO right here through the Schumacher S, and Andra and Timu Toyka, as I would expect, figuring out a way to make that work without losing too much time. But these two drivers, I mean, Timu's just waiting back there, licking his chops, hoping that one of these GTOs is he's gonna catch Andra at the wrong spot and break up this battle here.
A little ways to go for the next one, and that is Houghton and Olenek, who are still fighting for P4. So they've got a small break. Oh, and something happened to Suarez. A big thing happened to Suarez. He's in the wall hard.
And this was this was off the nose of Lars Olsen. They were caught up behind a GTO. This is a huge wreck.
Yeah, they were trying to find their way around that car, and yeah, this happens sometimes. Olsen just didn't get the memo that everyone would check up.
Yeah, and that's just tough break there for Pablo Suarez. Not really, Olsen just couldn't see. I mean, we've shown it before in previous races, but when you get tucked up behind those GTPs, you can't see anything. That wing is taking up your entire view.
Let's head back to our GTO leaders, because I'd say that Leskala is on the back of Hall once again, about 3/10 back. Phil Lake just kind of hovering around there. You know, we keep talking about Lake maybe not having the setup or not having the speed. Could he potentially be saving the tires? Is that a thing that maybe he could be doing?
I mean, yeah, he could be, but it's not really going to come into play that much. We're almost halfway through this race at this point. Track temperature is still down at 67 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're almost right there in the sweet spot between 70 and 75, where these tires like to run on the GTOs. But with these temperatures, he doesn't really need to save the tires that much. So by the end of this race, unless Jamie Hall and Yuko have been really ringing it out, he's not going to have that much of a tire advantage on them.
So there goes that theory out the window. Up to the braking for the last chicane one more time. Let's ride on board with Phil Lake, our third place driver. See how those hands fare. All the experience he has in this series. Very smooth turn in. And a very good exit. Actually, he's closed in on Leskala a significant amount.
Yeah, he has, and it's looking like a good opportunity. He's going to think better of going to the inside. Oh, and Nick Buchanos and Lars Olsen have collected each other once again.
No. I saw Olsen had an off.
Those two drivers had an off about 30 seconds ago. It was a unfortunate event here. We're going to see it right here. I believe This might be right after the incident.
It just happened in the hairpin. So there it is right there. And I think once again, traffic just kind of causing a little bit of a checkup. Oh, no. I think this was Olsen in the curbs. Here, watch this.
Yeah. Oh. That's
little
heartbreaking for Nick.
Yeah. Oh, let's go back to our leaders in the prototypes. Timu Toika finds himself once again tucked under the rear wing of Sai Andra.
Ooh, defensive move there from Sai.
Here's the question, though. Sai's going to gain a lot of points on Fabian Gerber today with his issues. How hard does he need to fight? Because Toika's not in this championship. He came in too late, and at this point, he's just looking for pride. He's going to challenge around the outside. Sai once again defensive. If he gets a good exit off of here, he can maybe try and outbrake him into the chicane, but no, he loses traction, and 2 wheels in the dirt is going to deny the number 6.
Yeah, but pride is exactly what you're talking about here. A win is a win, no matter whether or not it's a championship win or not. So I don't think Sai's going to let Timu go, but if Timu does get ahead of him, I wouldn't expect Sai to take massive risks to try and win it.
Really, I don't think any challengers around Sai are around Sai, I should say, in terms of the championship. Let me double check on that, because Kuka's not here today. Mukano's had his problems. So we once again take a look at the GTOs. 1, 2, 3, the podium all in order through the first part of the lap.
Yeah, and Yuko just tried to send it up the inside on Jamie Hall, who was able to cover it off. Yuko locking up all of the tires, trying to stay out of Jamie. But yeah, this three-way battle is now as tight as ever, and they've got Sai Andra and Timu Toika approaching them rapidly, just about 2.5 seconds back.
Yep, they've now gotten by the likes of Houghton and Olenek, who are fighting hard. And this is going to get interesting. We've got the perfect storm forming, where both lead battles are going to come across each other. So there's going to be less incentive to try and give way in both cases. How much patience is everybody going to show? They come up. Ooh, this is going to be a bad place to catch him. You're thinking the same thing I am, Adam.
Well, we also have Michael Haynes up ahead, who's a lap GTO, so we have, what, 4 different slower cars at different paces that Sai and Timu are going to have to tackle. Sai backs out of it a little bit. He's going to try and do the crossover here on Phil Lake. This will put Phil significantly behind those lead pack.
They get separated, at least temporarily. Catching them as it's one of the more technical parts of the track. Once again, being held up. Can Toika try and do something with it? There they go by the lapped car. Oh, he's got to pick a side. He has to slow up. And so does Toika. He hesitates and doesn't get the chance that he could have used. So it's going to stay in order. Jamie Hall ahead of Leskala, ahead of Lake, and Andra ahead of Toika.
But this might give an opportunity to Leskala, who we're riding on board with now, as Jamie was a little bit slow for that final corner. But wow, he's able to pull really well, throwing down that four-wheel drive, using as much tires as possible. But this is an opportunity for both of our leaders to try and make passes.
Nico takes a little bit of a peek. I don't think he's close enough yet as they break into the hairpin. Just not going to quite work out. The lead GTPs now leave them behind to defend amongst themselves. Interestingly, it didn't seem to split them apart too badly because they're just about the same distance. Yuko once again trying some very courageous moves in the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, Yuko is definitely trying to get that pass done, and Jamie knows that Jamie's going to defend it for all he's worth, because Jamie Hall knows that if he gets this win and keeps Yuko behind him, even if Phil passes him, Jamie's going to continue to buffer that lead, and when the drop points come in, those points are going to be very, very important to trying to keep in play with Phil as far as the championship is concerned.
The interesting thing about both of these lead battles is the GTPs have an 11-second gap back to third place. And the GTOs have a 9-second gap, so they are indeed running a pretty torrid pace compared to the rest of the field.
Wow, look at that. Timu Toika taking a lot out of that corner right there. Sai Andra just trying to play it safe, it seems like. But Timu Toika is in 100% aggression mode. He's trying to put the challenge on Sai and have him make a mistake.
Pressuring him a lot this race. Oh, he's a little wide at the first apex, though. That could have been costly, especially when you want to be nice and close, tucked up here. Sai trying to square off the exit, get on the throttle, and that actually helped him by a big amount. Timo Toika has no answer down to turn 1.
The battle for third place in the GTPs is about to catch up with that three-way battle for the lead in the GTOs. This is between Steven Warkup and Nicholas Schneider. Nicholas Schneider doing an excellent job at staying on the back of Warkup, and look at that up ahead of them. That was Phil Lake going on the outside of Yuko Leskala at the hairpin.
He's going to make it stick. He is. He's got the track position. He's on the inside as they come into the Mercedes arena, still side by side, almost banging doors through there.
Oh, they do.
Big slide, and he catches it with that four-wheel drive. Phil Lake holds on to second place. Leskala has to back out of it. Now Steven Warkup sees all this happening in front of him, wondering how in the world am I going to get through this clean, picks his way through, and at the same time actually leaves Schneider behind.
But that was a huge advantage for Jamie Hall, who's now up ahead of these guys by 2 seconds. And as they cut through, Steven Warkup and Nicholas Schneider will stay in their positions. Oh, JB actually makes a mistake heading into the next set of corners. So this, wow, everything's starting to crack off here now at 14 minutes to go.
Luke is in no mood to try and get involved in things with Yuko Leskala. His fight is with Jamie Hall so far this season. And once again, we're getting a lot of cloud cover here today. It has stayed pretty cool. We just mentioned it a few minutes ago. It's only 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius on the track. Back to that battle, for the podium between Warkup and Schneider. Two drivers we don't often see fighting for the podium. That car off is Nick Schmeg down in the GTOs just with his own issue.
Oh boy, and yeah, we're gonna keep watching this, but I can let you know that Timo Toika had contact with a lap GTO, ended up spinning that GTO around, and is now 2 seconds behind Sai Andra. So the battle for the GTP lead is now split up as we keep watching this battle for third between Steven Warkup and Nicholas Schneider.
Keeps him in touch. Wonder how nervous Warkup is. It seems like I'm pretty sure he's had podiums before here in the Kamel GT series, but it is not often. So I'm sure he's feeling a little bit of nerves inside that cockpit, especially with the immense pressure that he's dealing with from behind.
It is immense pressure, but it looks like he's handling it fairly well. Nicholas just unable to get any sort of purchase as they go through the faster sections, but it's these slower sections where Nicholas seems to have the advantage. So he's trying to get that power off and make sure that he challenges Steven into the braking zones.
And Nick is a lot more in position compared to qualifying than Warkup, because Nick qualified in 5th place and is currently in 4th. Now, I believe we have something happening with our GTOs.
P6 in the GTOs, and they're about to go by Nick Schmeg, who's really struggling on that in that GTP. He's got Laus Tolson, who's coming up behind them. Those two are going to get together again. But this battle in the GTOs is between Pablo Rangel, Daniel Sadro, Jamie Hamill-Smith. More contact between Nick Schmeg and Jamie Hamill-Smith there. That sends Schmeg off course. And now, oh my goodness, Jamie Hamill-Smith sliding through the turn sideways. And now we've got Laus Olsen and Nick Schmeg, who are going to be nose to tail for 11th position in the GTPs once again.
That was Mukanos. Hamill-Smith apologized on the radio for that move. Great catch by Mukanos to keep that car from going around, and gets right underneath the rear wing as they get held up by Rangel. He's going to be able to sneak through. He wants to, but the gap was just almost there. Pablo at the last second allows him by.
And remember, Laus Olsen and Nick Schmeg were up there battling for the 3rd position at one point. They've come together 2 times, and now they're battling for 11th and 12th place, only 2 places up from our last running GTP driver on the lead lap.
It's Mukanos that's fighting there. It's unfortunate that their battles keep going farther and farther down the field as the race progresses. Boy, it's getting dark out here today. It has gotten very cloudy out on track here in the latter stages. Only 10 minutes left to go. Try and sort that one out, but Olsen now has a big advantage with nearly 2 seconds between them. By the way, Toika is trying to come back despite the little bit of damage that he accrued. It's back down to 1 second between himself and Sai Andra.
Yeah, he's definitely gaining. Timo Toika is on Sai Andra, and remember, they have a little bit to go before they run into traffic again. So they're going to be
Sorry, we had a big wreck with Rangel and Hamill Smith. We were watching just a moment ago. And I think Jamie outbraked himself. Ooh, yeah, we're going to want to take a look at this one.
Yeah, this was one of those moments that you hate to see coming into this hairpin. Jamie Hamill Smith just outbraking himself pretty significantly going in here. Here we go.
Car just completely loses control on him when he's a passenger. Oh, and it was bowling pins from there. And sends Rangel off, who once again apologized, but I don't think he's making too many friends today.
Speaking of leaders who are gaining time after having an unfortunate event, Jamie Hall has now got the gap to Phil Lake only down, it's down to under a second now. Phil Lake gaining significantly on Jamie Hall in the closing moments of this race. We're under 10 minutes to go. Phil's got plenty of time to try and work Jamie over.
I'm curious if that's traffic or if that's raw pace that this number 2 has had underneath him this whole time. 10 minutes left. And down through the first hairpin, a tiny puff of smoke as Hall is using everything he can out of that rubber.
Yeah, I think Jamie has been wringing it out a lot more than I thought he was when he was battling with Yuko, because I was looking at Jamie under the braking for the hairpin, and that car does not look happy under hard braking there. You can see him slide off the corner. That's fast, but it's paying a price. When he goes through these medium speed corners, he can't carry as much speed as Phil can, who's been conserving those tires. So that tire play might have been right, Joe. I just didn't think it was going to come into play this much. But with Jamie bringing it out for the first 25 minutes of this race, those tires might be begging for mercy at this point.
So this changes the complexion of things by quite a lot. Because remember, it was Leskola who we thought would fight for the lead, and he has since fallen down to third and is 2 seconds behind. He has not caught up to them. He's right on board with Lake now, looking ahead at Jamie Hall. It is 0.4 of a second. He continues to close and reel him in.
So Phil's got to set him up for the final corner because he's right on his rear bumper. Oh my goodness, that was Martin Kraytrick slicing up to the back of Phil Lake there. Almost ran him over.
Almost thought there was going to be ghost contact there for a moment. That's Kraytrick as we look out the gearbox of Phil Lake. They blow it up into the last chicane. I think he sees that this is a battle for the lead. He's going to try and stay patient. He knows he can get the run off the last corner.
Phil takes a shallower entry, but Jamie Hall's wider entry allows him to square off the corner, and he gets a decent run. He's going to cover off that inside. Phil Lake's going to go to the outside and let Kraytrick through. Kraytrick might upset Jamie if he decides to outbrake him into the corner. He's not going to. He's actually going to get in the way of Phil.
That splits him up, and then it's hard getting off those slower corners in the prototypes.
Good move from Phil there.
Yeah.
He did the over-under on Kraytrick, allowed Kraytrick to go to the outside there so that he could get a good exit off the corner. He's doing it again here. He's trying to make sure that he doesn't lose too much time to Kraytrick being between them.
It's separating them by a fair amount. It's up to 0.9 of a second. Remember, that is doubled what it was just half a lap ago. Speaking of which, he's going to get in the way here once again of our leader and can't get off the corner.
Leading the GTP is changing right now. Teemu Toika trying to go around the outside of Sai Andra. They almost make contact as they go through the final chicane. That was very close. This was all interrupted or brought into play by Ryan Lang and Yuri Giesen, who were behind them battling, and that held up Sai Andra.
Battles kicking off at the exact same time. We're almost down to 5 minutes to go at this point. Into the first corner, Andra, he's got the gap, and look at Toika close in. My goodness.
Both of our lead battles sizing up now as we get into the final 6 minutes of this race. Teemu Toika trying to chase down Sai Andra. Phil Lake trying to chase down Jamie Hall. This is fantastic racing from all these drivers out here today.
They have nicknamed him Fat Teemu, and he has his following typically. Number 6 going to try and take another victory here and working hard over Sai Andra to see if he can make something happen. More traffic going to check them both up. That's Fonseca. Shot.
Teemu, he's going to look to the outside. He's going to try and break around the outside and take the outside around this corner. It's so hard for turn 7 to try and get around the outside there. It's just so long. But look how close he's tucked in behind. They have Nick Schmeck and Jamie Hamill-Smith up ahead of them. They're going to catch him at a high rate of knots. Andra has to break for it. Timu Toika sees the opportunity, looks for the inside, can't quite do it.
Goodness, that is Hamill-Smith now, and Smith's going to try and stay to the outside. They both squeak through, but Toika loses those precious feet that he needs to try and attack.
Next up is Pablo Rangal, but they're going to catch Pablo coming out of this final chicane, which might hold up Sai just a little bit as they go through the final turn. Timu Toika looking for an opportunity here, and we're getting reports that it's going to be about 2 to go this time by Sai Andra and Timu Toika catching up to Pablo Rangal for the 7th place in GTOs.
And credit to Sai Andra in all of this, withstanding this pressure. We knew he's able to do that, but my goodness. And there you go. Toika showing good on the brakes all towards the end of this race, but it's side by side, almost banging doors. Now they come into the Mercedes arena, and it's going to be who has the better mechanical grip in these slow corners. Toika's around the outside. That's going to be the more difficult task. It switches back to the right hand. He's got the inside, and still neither driver willing to give way. Down to Valvoline. Will this battle continue? It's been side by side for 4 corners, and finally he has to give up. Sai Andra retains the lead.
Sai just sending it through on the inside there, letting the car wash out. Timu had to give up that position or else make side-by-side contact with Sai. What a great move. Toika's move up the inside on the hairpin was brilliant. A fantastic move like we've seen so many times. Timu Toika getting a little bit loose off that corner. Fantastic driving for both of them.
I can't tell what's going on under braking with Toika, because that was incredible that he would catch up that much and attempt that pass. But that's certainly going to make Sai Andra think twice, considering he's able to get inside of him even from that far away.
Yeah, Timu Toika, they're going to catch Michael Haynes around the same spot they caught Pablo Rangal last lap. And we actually just had a pass for 3rd position between Nick Schneider and Steven Warkup.
I don't done yet, actually. They're still side by side, and now it looks like Schneider is able to complete the overtake. That split, it's still not done. They're going to be side by side once again. Warkup trying to come back at him down into the chicane. That's Cam Porter. That's not for position behind them, but it looks like he's finally got it done, and Nick Schneider up into the podium.
And we got to go to lead the GTOs because Timu Toika trying it around the outside this time. Sorry, the GTPs, as Timu Toika and Sai Andra trying to battle it through the hairpin there. Timu Toika now up the inside. He's going to try and do the exact same thing Sai did last lap. Sai with good power on the outside.
Switched roles. Does this bode poorly for Sai Andra, or does he have something up his sleeve? Wheel spin, and they come together. The 2 leaders come together. One is off course. One is almost spinning around. Toika catches the car, and Sai Andra is slowing. He's slowing to let him back. They've got a long gap back to Schneider.
Not long enough. It's only going to be 3 seconds by the time Timu gets going again. Sai Andra and Timu Toika. I think Sai's going to let him through like he said. Let's see what happens here. Oh, and as this is happening, the lead of the GTOs is going side by side around the final corner of the circuit. They're heading here. This will be their final lap, or their second final lap, I believe. But here we go. Jamie Hall with good pace on Phil Lake.
It is now 2 to go for these drivers as Hall is on the outside. The blue car to the inside is Phil Lake. Can he get it woed up? He tries not to go into the side of his teammate. Neither one hits each other, but they both smoke the tires. And we're going to see it again, side-by-side racing through the Mercedes arena. Hall starts to lose out. Does he try to send it up the inside of the next corner? Another puff of smoke as they wring everything they can out of those tires, looking for the over-under, but gets blocked at the apex. And Jamie Hall can't quite get the momentum that he needs. He dips and dives down to the inside. Can he get there? And can he try and effect the pass? Defending from the outside, Phil Lake denies him once more. Another over-under attempt as Jamie Hall tries for the exit, but it's just not there, and the lead for the first time goes to Phil Lake.
Phil Lake playing the long game today, being very cautious. He's able to get that lead, but don't think for a second that Jamie is done battling for that. And the lead in the GTPs is about to go side by side again, possibly, as Sai Andra. Timu Toika making that dive up the inside, couldn't quite get it done that time. Sai and Timu on their final lap. Man, this is crazy stuff here in the Kamel GT series.
It's gonna come down to the last lap. Can Toika make the pass stick this time? Andra let him catch up, but he's not letting him by easily as we ride on board with the Finn. Oh, he's close, but it's hard to pass down into Valvoline. Same thing with Ford. Dunlop tends to be harder than you'd think. Oh, he goes wide and he loses precious time.
Oh, and the lead, the GTOs has actually now been compressed together by Guillermo Kramer, who actually came through and actually held up Phil Lake significantly. So the GTOs might possibly be side by side through the final chicane. Here they come onto the final back straight. Here, Jamie Hall has an opportunity to pass Phil Lake once again.
Yep, he's on the front stretch. He's to the inside. He's going to give it a go. Is it going to be a repeat of last lap? Lake to the outside this time. He's going to gun it off the corner. He's got it fully ahead. No overlap currently for Jamie Hall. He tries that under-over move that he loves so much, but now he doesn't quite have the overlap that he needs. He is stuck behind. Let's go to our leaders, though. The checkered flag is being held out as Cy Andra has to survive one more corner. Toyka with a poor exit off of the last chicane. Andra withstands it all and takes his third victory of the season here in Germany.
What a fantastic win for Cy Andra. A great race for him. Stephen Warkup holds on to third position as well, but let's get back up to that GTO lead. Jamie Hall not quite done yet.
Phil Lake going to be looking for win number 5 here. And amazing that he'll be looking for win number 5 and isn't leading this championship, taking everything off the corner. They come back together after that little mistake we saw on screen from both Paul and Phil Lake. Laust Olsen sits patiently behind them. He is not fighting for a position right now. He's trying to let this one settle out. Oh, and Lake gets a great exit. These last few corners are going to be critical to keep himself safe. Jamie Hall does not look close enough to me.
Jamie doesn't look close enough, but Phil could still make a mistake. He made a mistake through the long sweeping corner of turn 7. Phil braking very early. Jamie almost making contact. He outbrakes himself into the corner, and this will be Phil Lake free and clear.
The Hail Mary, but it just wasn't meant to be. Phil Lake out of Coca-Cola and to the line is going to take victory here today at the Nürburgring.
Wow, what a fantastic race we had here. Great passing, great side-by-side battles from everybody on board.
Oh, my goodness. We need to take a little bit of a break, catch our breath after that one. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. back to the Nürburgring. The Grand Prix circuit saw an incredible fight. It doesn't matter to me if it's popular or not among the drivers. This was a stunner to remember for both lead battles, and in the end, Andra took the victory in the GTPs. Teemu Toika had a little bit of contact with him. I don't think there was anything wrong that happened in that fight, just a little bit of racing incident with some wheel spin, and Teemu made contact and wound up in second. Stephen Warkup did get third in the end after starting in 10th. We didn't, I don't think we mentioned that as Nicholas Schneider, something must have happened to him. He was all the way down in P4 at the end of the race. Riley Thompson came back from his mistakes early on to finish with the top 5, and Heitor Sintes-Guindo went from 11th to 6th place. Roman Pawlowski took 7th with Martin Krejcik in P8. Hideki Koivisto came home in 9th. How about Guillaume Kramer from 19th to 10th? Didn't really get to talk about him because there was so much battling up front, but he climbed from the back of the field quite well. Laust Olsen wound up going backwards and finishing 11th. Nick Bukanos, another driver with a bad day, coming home in 12th. Reuter with 13th. The first car lap down amongst the GTPs was Cam Porter in 14th.
Phil Lake takes the win today after a fantastic last 5-minute pass on Jamie Hall. Those two were battling side by side for the last couple of minutes of the race. Jamie just coming up short after a little bit of an early braking moment from Phil, caught Jamie off guard and gave Phil free and clear for the last couple of corners. Hugo Lascola falling off a little bit from those two drivers up ahead, ends up about second and a half back of Jamie Hall at the end of the race. Chris Howard, one of the GTPs who had a rough race, ends up down there in the 18th spot in overall, with Michael Houghton finishing 4th for the GTOs. Rob Olenek coming home in 5th to take the exact place of his points championship as well. Daniel Sadro, a good race for him, getting up to the 6th spot, with Pablo Rangel finishing in the 7th spot ahead of Jamie Hamill-Smith, who had a little bit of incidents later on in the race, coming home in 8th. Yuri Giesen coming home in the 9th position. Ryan Lang in 10th. Chris Decker is going to come home 11th, with Robert Plumley in 12th. Lucas Fort 13th. Then Craig Schultz coming home in 14th. And Carlos Fonseca, not a great race for him, coming home in 15th position. Michael Haynes 16th. Bradley Niroyka coming home in 17th. Nick Schmeg 18th. And Simo Raba rounding out the rest of your GTO field. Then we have our non-finishers: Pablo Suarez, Fabian Gerber, Matthias Hovdahl, and Wayne Marshall.
Big names in there, unfortunately. But another big name who took the victory today is Andra. And congratulations on the win. But let's talk about that incident with 2 laps to go on the penultimate lap. Now, have you had a chance to go back and look at it? And do you feel differently about it than you did initially when you slowed and tried to let Teemu back up to you?
I mean, honestly, I think I do the same thing regardless. Teemu's a great driver and a great guy to battle with, and honestly, I wouldn't be happy ending it like that. So even if it was technically his fault, I don't think Teemu would have done it on purpose, and I would have let him catch back up anyway.
I mean, I honestly, personally didn't put blame on either of you on that incident. It seemed like a racing incident to me, but my goodness, he seemed like he was really putting some pressure on at the end. I mean, what was going through your head in that battle those last 10 laps?
It's never an easy race with Teemu behind you. Never. I mean, he's so good at just applying that pressure and making you mess up so that he can sneak by, or just kind of messing with your head a little bit, kind of like making a poke here and there. You'd see him like pull out a little bit, then kind of dive back in, kind of making you think, oh, where's he going to pass? And that worked at Okayama, and I was determined to make it not work today. And Teemu got very, very close to making it work again.
Handle all the power that's under your right foot in the Mercedes arena, especially when you're racing side by side with guys like Teemu, because we saw that multiple times where you two seem to go wheel to wheel in some of the slowest corners where this car is the trickiest.
It was definitely a challenge, but the thing you can do with the setups to help with that is kind of making the diff a little bit less tight so it doesn't snap shut as quickly on power. Things like that, and just having a gentle right foot to begin with, kind of training your foot to kind of detect when the turbo is going to cook in and start backing off the throttle, then getting back on it once the turbo spun up. Those kind of things just come with experience and just time. And I think Teemu and I have kind of got that part down. And I think if Fabian and Matthias hadn't had their little issue, I think they would have been right up there with us.
They seemed like they were holding on early in the race. Well, again, congratulations on win number 3, and hopefully we'll see you over in France.
Thank you.
That was Cy Andra, victor in the GTP field, and the winner down in the GTOs, Phil Lake, who seemed to cause a little bit of controversy after the checkered flag. Adam has caught up with him.
Yeah, Phil, I was curious. JB Hall with a little bit of an outburst after the checkered flag. What do you think upset him at the end of the race?
I'm not sure. He definitely he was better on the brakes than me all week, and I think we got pretty close in the last chicane.
Yeah,
but other than that, I haven't spoken to him yet.
Yeah, but talk to me about that battle with Jamie. You guys were side by side for a good portion of that lap. Fantastic over-unders from both of you guys trying to get that battle, but it was hard to catch up to him today.
Yeah, it definitely was. I really lost my rhythm when Yuko passed me early on, and I just had to try and settle back down. I knew I had good pace, but I knew Jamie had really, really strong pace as well, so I needed to get past Yuko. But then after a few laps, I realized Yuko had solid pace too, so it wasn't such an immediate issue. So then I could just kind of relax and pick my moments to try and pass them both.
So were you saving tires throughout the first portion of that race? Because we noticed you were driving very smooth and a little bit back of the guys ahead of you. Were you just waiting for them to battle it out?
Kind of, yeah. I was kind of hoping they'd go side by side, or at least Jamie would be keeping an eye on Yuko and his mirrors and just kind of slowing him down just a little bit. And I didn't want to be that guy that was up behind Yuko, making him look in his mirrors and slowing him down so that we both lost Jamie. So I was just giving him a bit of space to concentrate on Jamie.
Well, still a fantastic win, and just a great win for you today, and battling your teammate for that win. And looking at the points championship with the drop weeks coming in, are you hoping to gain a little bit more traction and get back up to the top of the podium?
Yeah, looking at the drops, it's still really, really close. It's just gonna come down to being who can be the most consistent and make basically no mistakes for the rest of the season. So it's gonna be really intense.
Well, Phil, congrats on getting back into winning form, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks. See you next week.
All right, that was Phil Lake, our first place driver and winner in the GTO series this week. And next up, we have Teemu Toika, who's talking with Joe Peak.
The Finn who came home in second today, fighting hard for the lead. Teemu, Sai seems to think that there's no hard feelings on your end. Are you okay with what happened in the penultimate lap?
Yeah, I mean, Sai didn't leave me much room, but he left me enough room. But yeah, there was still contact. I lost the rear a bit on the exit there, but I had corrected it by the time the contact had happened. But yeah, just that happens, and I can only thank Sai for waiting for me anyway. And yeah, that was a real gentleman move on his side.
It was a great finish between you two as well. This is a track, the GP course here at Nürburgring, that seems to divide opinions, and some people don't seem to be fans. How do you feel about it, especially after a great fight like that today?
I do think it's a great track. It is one of the best on the calendar this season, and it was a real joy to drive around. Although my fronts were getting a bit worn, but it was still really balanced throughout the lap, and yeah, real joy to drive.
This gives you another podium, and obviously next week it's going to be a very different beast with Le Mans. How are you feeling about going into a track that is known for the draft battles being a big factor in who wins?
I mean, if I could choose, I'd rather not have the draft battle, but it's just part of the game. It's just something that you have to live with, and yeah, maybe it'll be fun, but I doubt.
Well, we'll see what kind of racing it produces. Maybe, who knows, maybe you can break the draft and try and scamper away. Again, congratulations on a second, and thanks for a very entertaining race from our end.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure to drive.
Stoika finishing second today. And finally, one last one. Adam has caught up with the Texan we love to talk to, Michael Houghton.
Yeah, Michael, you had your hands full holding off Rob Olenek today, and it seemed like it was pretty busy work out there for you throughout the race.
Yeah, I was disappointed that I didn't have the pace to keep up with the guys that finished on the podium, but nevertheless, top 5 seems to come pretty easy nowadays. Rob didn't make it easy this time, though. He's always been pretty quick, and he was looking for me to make a mistake. And fortunately, I didn't make any huge errors that he could capitalize on. And yeah, a good race.
How hard is it to stay consistent out here on this track, especially in the Audi GTO?
I was having a lot of trouble under braking, so that's probably why Rob was catching up and why I lost the top 3 guys. I'd say the hardest corners to brake for are turn 1. You know, you're on that long straight, the car's at top speed, and then you suddenly have to brake, and the brake on these cars is not really great. Going into the chicane, same thing. It's really tough to find consistency because that chicane is really tight, and if you hit the curbs, you know, it can spin the car around. So you really have to be careful there. And I was being really, really careful in order not to do that.
Well, if brakes are hard here, then next week at Le Mans, it's going to be just as difficult. Talk to me about the particular challenges the GTO class faces as they go into that crazy draft circuit.
Well, yeah, especially the fast guys won't be able to pull away from the middle tier guys. So it's going to be a very tight battle. I've raced at Le Mans before, and I don't see any problem with the Nissans too much, except for the Porsche S's or the Porsche Curves. Yeah, other than that, should be a pretty good race.
Well, Michael, is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Same as always, guys. You keep doing a great job. Thank you for doing this. It's keeping us distracted from the current situation, and I just want to tell my baby, love you, and I will see you guys at Le Mans next week.
All right, that was Michael Houghton, our 4th place finisher today in the GTOs. Back to you, Joe.
I guess no podium, no yeehaw from Mike. Maybe he'll make up for it next week if we talk to him again. Let's close things out once again with a quick mention that if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. Big thank you goes out to the Kamel GT series for bringing us back for another season of coverage, but we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see those listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We've also got social media outlets. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store. It's linked in the description below. It's just gsrc.storeenvy.com if you want to type it in yourself. And also, while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel by clicking the big red subscribe button. The next race is going to be Le Mans. That'll be Saturday, August 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And we have a special event coming up in just a couple hours, Janitor Dave's Summer Slammer. Yes, you heard that right. And it is going to be the Riley DP at the Texas Oval, the old Texas Oval, here on iRacing. So that'll be interesting. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.